humanity will still exist.
It's something very important to us as kids. Collected comic books for many years. I still have most of my collection. We did skew towards Marvel Comics. I think that we liked the humanity and the characters and the fact that they were relatable and that their powers had a limitation to them. And so this, for us, getting to make these movies, when you find something as a child in a story that's important to you, it has strong emotional impact throughout your entire life. So, we feel like we connect with these characters. We understand the mythology behind them. Favorite growing up was Spider-Man for me because I related to him. He was a kid dealing with, growing up and this incredible responsibility of having, superpowers.
My favorite character was a DC character, so.
Yeah, he's not allowed to talk.
It was a challenge. I mean, when we were thinking about how to execute this movie, we realized there's really no model that we could look at. There's no film that has had this number of characters before in it. So, yeah, it was a challenge, and we were worried. But we have such a great collaboration with the writers, Chris Marcus and Steve McFeely. We just spent many months with them in a room just sort of stepping through all the possibilities of the story and figuring out how we could bring each character in organically and make them very propulsive and useful to the story. And I think it just ended up working out, in a way. But there was never any mandate, creatively, if we hadn't figured it out, the movie wouldn't be what it is. You know what I mean? It was really the fact that it did work on a creative level for us, which is what led to the film.
I think that stuff tends to naturally balance itself. This is a unique film in that there's so many different franchises. Nobody's ever done this before, where each of these really successful franchises have different tones and different characters. Putting them together creates this really interesting alchemy. And we have one constant, I think, in all of our movies, which is emotional realism. And so we put everyone through the filter of that emotional realism. And ultimately, it allows for when Thanos does show up and bad things happen, I think, for a fluid transition.
I think that's one of the great things about having an ensemble, though, because not all the characters are going through the same thing at the same time. They don't all have the same relationship to the story or the plot. So some of them can be in a very tense situation or difficult situation, some of them may be in a lighter situation. So it allows us to go different places with different characters.
I think that people should be prepared in case characters do die.
Bring some tissue to the theater.
Yeah. Nothing has value without an ending, so this is what brings value to the story that's been told over the last 10 years. And, stakes are important because it's truthful. And I think the movie asked the question, what does it cost to be a hero in a complicated world? And that the notion that doing what's right always outweighs the cost, no matter how high the cost. I think that's a fair assessment.
I mean, we've always thought of this movie, these two movies together, really as like, in some ways they're an ending, and in some ways they're a beginning.